We hire someone today, most of the time they're just finishing school to work in the hospitality, working for 6 months or maybe a year and then leave. It's a lot of it turning over, but how we can prepare those people on the
Yeah.
cheaper way.
It's so important that we understand we need to put procedure in place, because I might get hit by a bus tomorrow, or my business operations person or my marketing person. I need to be able to pass on that knowledge quickly so my business can keep running.
Talking about the other part of the coin, how good you feel about yourself when you feel confident in your job.
The first place we always cut corners as operators is on training. We actually empower them with knowledge. We teach them to be more strategic thinkers.
Hi, Crystal. Can I call you Chris?
Hi.
Just make your name shorter.
Sure.
Thank you so much for accepting that invitation. I really enjoyed talk to you like last time, and we we innovate and visionaries. I think it's so important for us to share what like also successful, but also how many things we struggle on the way. That conversation we had before really inspired me, and that's why I said like, I need to take this girl to talk about her business, because what you try to do as well, you bring to the world is completely new, and it's something like we have a big frustration in the wine industry, big frustration in hospitality industry, and we don't see many things happening to help us with that. And then because I work in the retail and I have some problem with the training, because I was part of the person who was training my team, I know exactly what is actually the benefits for bring something like Knowbie to the wine world and the hospitality world. But before we going so deep on your business, I want to talk about Crystal. So who she is, like how she started. Like you have such huge experience in the hospitality industry, 20 years in the hospitality industry. How was this transition for some of the hospitality to the tech industry? So I feel like very connected, because I feel like I was the same path as you. But I think you are a little bit ahead of me at the moment. So let's just share a little bit. This all like Crystal Hamilton. How was she like 20 years ago, and how she is now? How she got in this on this path? Please just tell a little bit about your story.
I love that. Of course. Thank you. Well, thanks for having me. And I too enjoyed our conversation immensely. I think it's really great when we can support each other on journeys upward and outward. So I would think, I've been in restaurants kind of my whole life, but I think my journey with regards to wine started on Father's Day probably 20 years ago, when my parents were wine drinkers, but it was when Yellowtail was very, very popular, and that's what they were drinking. And I remember going for Father's Day dinner, and I didn't really care about wine, but my dad ordered a bottle of Cake Bread Cabernet, and it was a back vintage. I think it was like a 98 or something like that. And it might have been like 2004 or something. And I went down to the bathroom to go to the restroom, and where we were sitting was upstairs. And so as I walked upstairs, I could smell the wine. I could smell it. Like I could smell the beautiful aromas coming from the decanter. And that, I'll never forget it. It was the experience that changed my life. And it made me realize that wine was different. Like wine wasn't all like Yellowtail. That there was a story to be heard from wine. And so I went up. I was so intrigued by this wine, and I drank it, and I enjoyed it, and it was just life-changing. And so from that moment, I decided that I was going to dive into the wine industry. And I volunteered at every wine festival. I cleaned the spit buckets. I did everything I could. I was working at a restaurant, a really popular restaurant at the time. I enrolled in WSET courses like level 2, level 3, and I really just immersed myself in the industry. And I became really passionate about what I was learning. And so I ended up going to my restaurant and saying, I'm going to school, I'm learning this stuff. I'd really like it if you could help me pay for what I'm doing. And in turn, I will train all of your staff, because we didn't have any wine training at all at this very busy restaurant. And so it's funny because I've even told the owner of this restaurant, his name's Imad Yakub. It was a global group here in Vancouver. I say he's the first person I ever pitched. And the first thing I learned was you should always ask for more than you think you should get, because I only asked him to pay for 50% of my school, and he said yes right away. But I should have went for 100%. So there's the first lesson from Crystal right there. But yeah, he got me cheap. And so he paid for half of my school, and in return, I would train his staff. I had never done anything like that before, but I just figured it out. And what was so interesting, Priscilla, is that, here I was at this very fancy, very busy, very high volume restaurant selling big bottles of wine. And I had all these, it was mainly men, right? Because that, the steakhouse kind of servers. I have all these guys, they're signing up for my wine courses, sitting in front of me. There's like 20 or 30 of them, and they know nothing. They know nothing. They're just really good at faking it. They're really good at like getting people to buy expensive bottles of wine and saying they're really great. But did they know anything about it? Nothing. So it was so interesting, because here I am actually giving them the tools and the education and the real language, and teaching them how to smell and taste, and they're so into it. And that was really a big eye-opening experience for me, because from there on, I became really, really passionate about training and about teaching. And so after I finished school and stuff with WSET, and I got my, level 4, I was recruited to work for one of the top wine importers in Canada, the Trialto Wine Group. And I left my job at Global and I went and worked for them. And funny enough, I represented cake bread. It was in my portfolio. So the wine that, had first changed my life, I got the opportunity to be in a car with Dennis Cake Bread, driving him around to my accounts and having dinner with him and sharing with this man how his wine actually changed the whole trajectory of my career. And just a funny little kind of come together there. And, through my time being an agent, I experienced that same experience of training all those guys in that steakhouse busy restaurant. I experienced it everywhere. Everywhere I went, I was having to train people on, my wines and my portfolio, and nobody knew anything. Like some people knew that, red wine came from red grapes. Some people didn't know how they got the oak in, or, like it was always varying degrees. And so that was really where the inspiration for Knowbie came, is because I thought, why isn't there some sort of solution that would just give foundational education, like broad stroke education, affordably, quickly, and something that could actually be fun and people would want to do it? Why didn't anything like that exist? And it didn't. And so I thought, well, I guess I'm going to become a tech person and build something.
So that's how they because your passion for training others to make things happen better on restaurants and retails and hospitality industry. You just come with the idea to making these more available and adapted in a cheaper way. Because we know, like, everyone I try to speak with, like also sommeliers and stuff, they have all this dream to training, consulting, blah blah blah. But this consultancy for training is very hard, because there is not many business who want to pay you for doing this, because it's expensive. And then that is something else we know. This true is not just in US, it's not just in Australia, it's in many places in the world. We hire someone today, most of the time they just finishing school to work in the hospitality, and then working for 6 months or maybe a year, and then leave. And then someone else is coming, and then you leave. And so it's a lot of it turning over stuff all the time in most hospitality business. it's very hard to see the same person there who have been working for years and years and years, because I guess it's always have a lot of these younger generation come to hospitality to get some job, quicker job, so we can actually get some job, like some money to pay the bills when they finish uni. But when they finish uni, they leave. At least that's the scenario we have here in Australia. And it's very hard for training those people, because it's I work in Dave Murphy's, was in one of the biggest retail stores here in Australia. So we have about 240 stores, and we have there's a lot of turnovers. It's a lot of turnovers in this 240 store in the whole Australia. It's very hard. It was for me, because I sometimes I have like it just for December, like December is the busiest time, and we just hire more people in that time, and you have that only for this busy period time, like from November, October till Jan, Feb, and was just those people get it like this just for a few months. And how we will actually make training then one in the like how we can actually teach them in such a short period and in a short time, and they get paid to be able to talk with customers, to help customers on the floor. It's always was so challenging, and challenging for me as well to have my time to go with them when you have lots of customers asking for it, helping customers with your weddings, having customers with Christmas, every customers, because we have these things as well. Customers could talk to you online, so they actually can get a meetings online with customers. How I can manage it, meeting customers, training my staff, it was a nightmare. Like a lot of the customers, I wanted to buy this for dinner, for presents. Can you help me? Can you help me? And you have these all the phone all the time, and you have your customers outside, plus you have your staff. And for me, it was like, okay, how I organize that? So how great it would be if I have some kind of training where people can just engage in that, and in the way they can learn quick enough so they can actually come to the floor and then to be able to help customers. But it's something like it's missing on the wine industry and the hospitality industry in general. And in restaurants, the same thing. You like always hire more people for this short timing on the busiest timing for holidays or for Christmas, because have more people going to these places, and you have the extra staff. But how we can prepare those people on the cheaper way?
Yeah, and you need to do it efficiently. Like time is our non-renewable resource. So how can we do it quickly, affordably, and thoroughly? Technology enables us to put like process and procedure that outlasts people. I'll give you an example. I was speaking with a restaurant in Palm Springs last year, and they were ready to go with Knowbie. And every time I would call the manager to get him to send me his staff list, because we're super simple. Like Knowbie was developed by hospitality people, so we know how much time you have for technology, and like the minute your door is open, you're on the floor and you're having all of these balls in the air. So every time I would call this guy, he would tell me, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. Yeah, I'm so busy. Right. He was always too busy in that moment, which we've all been like that. Fast forward to today, Luca is no longer at that restaurant. And so right now in Palm Springs, it is the busiest time of year. There's seasonal business, so or a seasonal region, meaning that it's full season right now because it's cold everywhere else and it's warm in Palm Springs. So they're busy. They have no GM who did all the training, who did all the scheduling, who did all the process and procedure. He had that institutional knowledge, and he's gone. So the idea with Knowbie is, business operators, we need to, even myself in my own business, it's so important that we understand we need to put procedure in place, because I might get hit by a bus tomorrow, or my business operations person, or my marketing person. So I need to be able to pass on that knowledge quickly so my business can keep running. And so had Luca adopted Knowbie early or last year, the owners of the restaurant wouldn't have to worry about training. They wouldn't have to worry about doing pre-shift. They wouldn't have to worry about any of that because that Knowbie is there even when Luca's not. So as a manager moves on, your process and procedure is there. And that's what Knowbie gives you, is that structure and that consistency that your business needs so that you don't have to slow down every time you lose an employee. And in the industry right now, at least in Canada, we're at an 84% turnover rate. 84%. It's higher than it was even during COVID. So it's now more than ever that we need to be looking at ways to streamline our businesses in retail and restaurants, and even in wineries, right? Wineries are the same. They're hiring tasting room staff. It's seasonal. Like, we need to be faster at getting these people confident and up to speed so that our businesses don't suffer from, we need to basically protect against that. And that was really part of the inspiration of Knowbie too, is all my friends are in the industry. I am like a true lover of hospitality. And I believe, that I'm the living example that, a restaurant job is not a dead end job. I believe in this industry. And so I built this solution to help my friends and my family and my colleagues to be better and have more thriving businesses, and to help all of those young people that are entering the industry to understand that the world is your oyster. You work in a restaurant, you work in liquor retail, you're in the wine industry. I mean, it is a beautiful industry to be in, and it's taken me around the world. And I have some of the most incredible friends, including yourself. And that's the message I want to share with our industry. And the message that I want us to be talking about is using technology to really showcase that.
But I think we didn't talking about the other part of the coin, because it's actually how good you feel about yourself when you feel confident in your job. Because that's something we should be talking about, because it's much easier for me to work in a restaurant when I feel confident. I know about the food, I know about the beers, I know about the whiskey, I know about the wine. Any customer questions that I actually can help with them, then me to feel like, oh my God, I have no idea. Oh my God, I have no idea. Just I haven't been in both sides.
Amen. Me too.
Idea.
Me too. And it's how quickly
no idea. Confident about them.
How quickly, Priscilla, we forget what it was like to be a beginner. How quickly we forget. We were all there one day. I remember when I worked at Global, that restaurant I told you about, and before I started my wine studies, and I was selling those big bottles, and people would be asking me questions. I had no idea. I didn't even know how to decant. I barely even knew how to open a bottle of wine. And here I am selling to these, men and women that knew more about my products than I did. Think about what that does to your self-esteem. And the other side of that is, think about what that does to the reputation of the restaurant or the retail store. If I go to a restaurant and I say, is your Chardonnay oaked? And the server goes, I don't know, I'll have to get back to you. Or, any kind of question, it lowers my impression of that restaurant.
Yes, for customers, the experience is changed completely.
Exactly. I'll give you a great example. I was in a restaurant recently that's kind of like a casual dining chain. It's got, I think, 75 locations in Canada and the US. And I go in with my partner, we're sitting down, we're ordering steaks, we order a bottle of wine. And it's not a fancy bottle of wine, maybe $60 or something, but this place doesn't have a huge wine list. And the server comes.
$6 for a lot of people is already luxury, though.
Yeah, it just depends for sure.
What are you like? What are your range of money you spend and drinks?
Of course.
But for a lot of people, $6 is already a very good bottle.
So the server comes to the table. She's this beautiful young woman and lovely. She brings the bottle and she opens up the corkscrew. I'm looking for my corkscrew right now so I can show you, but she opens up the knife of the corkscrew and she starts stabbing at the top of the bottle to remove the foil. And so I know right there that this poor young woman has no clue what she's doing, but I'm not going to step in, right? It's, for me, I think it's disrespectful. Unless they ask for my help, I just let them do their thing. And in my head, I'm thinking, I can't wait to give her Knowbie at the end. I can't wait. But she's stabbing at the top of the bottle, and she finally like picks the foil off. She opens up the corkscrew, she puts it in, and she turns it a few times, but she forgets to close the knife. She cuts her hand open at the table. Blood.
Oh no.
Yeah, she's bleeding. She's like, oh my God, excuse me, I'm so sorry. You know, leaves the table, comes back like bandaged up, removes the bottle and says, you know, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. I've actually never opened a bottle of wine before. This is someone that's going to their job and they do not have the basic level of skills. They were not trained on the basic level of skills. She says, yeah, usually the bartender just opens the bottles for us and I bring you the open bottle. Okay. Like, it's shocking to me that things like this happen, but they happen because we cut corners. And the first place we always cut corners as operators is on training, because again, we're pulled in so many directions. So it's this double-edged sword. And I just wrote this blog about it. Like, I remember being a manager and cutting corners on training, but then what happens is you have situations like I experienced with the girl injuring herself, or the situation like you experienced, Priscilla, where your staff are needing you all the time because they don't have the basic level that they need to do their job confidently or thoroughly, or, you know, to just even have a basic level. And this is what we need to talk about. And what we need to do is we all need to bring everything up. And that's why with Knowbie, I wanted it to be affordable, fast, easy to use. It's not rocket science. It's just a turnkey solution for the industry to be able to create a bar that's going to be there, whether Luca's there or not, a bar that's going to help that server that cut her hand open, that's going to teach her the basics of her job. She can do it on her own time, on her phone, on the bus, wherever she is. And it just kind of gives that, you know, that guarantee that at least you've done that as an operator, to give them the tools and it didn't take away from your time.
Is it like an app? Yeah, so we can just download the app in your phone, and it's pretty easy, so we can access that information anywhere, anytime. So if you have any questions, we can just, it's easier to access to the information. So that's what Knowbie bring it to the world. Yeah, it's just like an app you put in your phone, just make things pretty easy, pretty simple. So you're just going there, and then you can, the whole stuff can access for X amount. It's not something you need to pay per person, so it's pretty affordable as well for the business owners as well. So it's like you'll get that you get that app to your staff, if everyone can access.
Yeah, and that was the point. So because of that 84% turnover, every time they lose a staff, I think it was I can't remember what hospitality university did a study on this, but I think it was $6,800 or $6,834, I think was the math. Every time you lose a staff member in a restaurant, that's the cost. And it goes from, you know, the cost of hiring, the cost of loss of production or productivity, the cost of the time, and they calculated everything. And it was $6,834, I think. So every time a staff member leaves, that's the cost to a business, to a restaurant business. It was Cornell University. It was the hospitality school at Cornell University. So knowing these numbers, every time it happens, I didn't want to have my friends in the industry have to be punished more. You know, if you own a business, you know how hard it is to hire people. I never really understood what a huge taxing activity it is to hire a staff member, to go through posting a job, getting the resumes, sorting through them, you know, doing interviews, you know, doing the offer, doing the paperwork, and then onboarding them and getting all your systems in place, getting them signed up for everything. I mean, it is such a huge, heavy lift. And so I wanted Knowbie to be not another thing they had to do. So it's so simple that every time you lose somebody or you get a new employee, you just add them. You pay one price for the year for as many staff as you have. You can delete and add as many as you want, and it's simple. And then we do the training for you, and you just kind of follow along. And so you can send them notifications, you can send them pre-shifts, you can get everything that they need. We're not trying to make sommeliers and cicerones. We're really just trying to raise the bar on the massive population of people that are employing the majority of restaurants today. There's millions and millions and millions of them that don't have even basic level of knowledge. And when you think of the people that are employing the hospitality and retail industries, a lot of this time, they're looking for economic mobility. They need skills and certificates and things that they can use as they move on in their careers. And so I don't want Knowbie to be something where education becomes an exclusive thing. I want it to be inclusive for everybody. And so I want to contribute to that economic mobility. There's a lot of women, a lot of single moms, a lot of immigrants, a lot of people that are already marginalized working in our industry. So if we can give them a certification that helps them feel more confident on their resume so they can go and get that job at, XYZ restaurant or that nicer bottle shop or that maybe that private club that they've always wanted to work at, well, having a certification like Knowbie helps them get that job. And so as a business owner, we can't just look at educating our staff to keep them. We want to educate them and train them so that they become the best version of themselves. Exactly. And if they move on better than how they arrived. That's how we change the whole narrative around turnover and the whole narrative around, these being dead end jobs. It's like, actually, no.
And then, to be honest, I think it probably incentivizes people to stay in hospitality because it's something we don't see hospitality as a career, pretty much today. It's the most, we need to change that perspective of people as well, because the perception of most of people, we just say something you do for a little while, and when you finish uni and something, but it's not as lots of the perception we have today is not a successful career to be in hospitality, it's not something I think we desire. And I think most of the time is because we never get the training, you never get the help. It's always being something like, oh my God, yeah, you get this bag and putting that in front of that and you need to do everything there and you feel very unconfident and customers feel pretty much, and I think probably one of the reasons as well we see hospitality suffering as well, because, we don't prepare people to give the best of themselves for customers, because you don't train them to make them confident. Customers don't, and then, with everything's happening at the moment, they just cut it down to going out. And UK has been a big problem at the moment with, restaurants, hospitality bars, with people going out less and less and less. And those businesses struggle at the moment. And then I think if you have a look at the big picture, not just the small problem, the big picture is so connected. It's so connected with how people perceive and perception of the people and the staff. Because if the staff are making customers feel amazing about themselves, if you train them to making confident and to make customers feel amazing about themselves, customers will want to come back, because that's just the natural things for humans. Humans love it to be places and feel amazing about themselves. But we don't have this training, like you said. It's always, I think it's not important. It's, they're going to learn, fine. It's going to learn, it's fine. But we don't see the big picture, how much we could improve the experience, not only for the restaurant, for the perception and for the perception of the hospitality industry, but also for the people working with and for customers. It's a win-win-win-win. It's going to be beneficial. The whole thing, it's not just one party. You solve a big problem between all, for the restaurant, for staff, and for customers. That's what makes us in business, because without customers we don't have business. So should be the number one.
Customers and staff. Without staff and customers, it's just an empty building with some chairs and tables in it. You need both to survive. And I'm such a believer in continuing education. So being a life learner. And I think that that's one thing that we have, failed at in the hospitality industry is, everybody listening to this call, we've all probably been at a onboarding session at a restaurant or a bottle shop or a hotel where, we were given our manual. Here's your manual, flip through it, read it. And then that's the only training you get. You get your manual and then you follow a server or somebody around for a week or so. And then boom, you're on the floor. You're in front of customers. You're on stage, right? But then that doesn't allow for continuing education, right? It's such a flatline approach to a career. And if I'm running a business and I've got, 10 employees, on average, I think it's like 2 out of 10 are going to be your A's, 3 more are going to be your B's, and the rest are going to be 5 are going to be C's. You're not going to really focus on the C's because, they're looking at it more like a dead end job, and that's all good. But your B's are who you want to be moving up to the A's, right? So that you can kind of insulate your business more by having more A players on your team. And the way to do that is to educate them, train them, involve them in conversations. You brought up a really important thing about regular customers. How many people that are listening to this, I want to ask, have talked to their staff or have been talked to about customer lifetime value? Who's talking about that? I can guarantee almost nobody, maybe 1% of people. But I wish someone would have talked to me about that. Like, if staff understood that every interaction they have with somebody is not just an insular experience, that person has a lifetime value to the business and to that staff member. And so what is that? How do we actually nurture that more? And another experience, story of, I was at an event over Christmas, over the holidays, and I had someone from a restaurant industry advocacy group tell me about an experience he had going into a restaurant, at about 10 o'clock, and they'd just done last call, and him and his buddies were going out for a drink. It was their first drink of the night. I think they were at the movies or something. And the restaurant said, "Oh, we just did last call." And the guys said, "Oh, is there any way we could just get one drink? We're not drunk. We just want to have, one drink, and we'll pay for it, and we'll just sit here and have our drink." And the server's like, "Yeah, that works for me. Like, no problem." The bartender said, "No, I'm tired and I want to go home." So these 5 guys, they were like, "Come on, like just make us one drink." And the bartender was like, "Nah, I'm tired. I want to go home." The experience that had on those 5 guys, those 5 guys are not going to go back to that restaurant. And I mean, I'm saying nicely the experience they had a much worse experience than that. But then what happened is that guy went to how many events? I ended up hearing about it weeks later. So he was still talking about this experience. And that's the impact of lifetime value, the positive and the negative. Because that one experience, those 5 guys, not only did they lose out on the sale of that night, but it impacted the reputation of the restaurant. It impacted the experience those guys had. And then they went and they shared it like a viral, spread. And these are the conversations I feel that if we talk to our staff about it and we actually empower them with knowledge and we empower them with these we teach them to be more strategic thinkers, that they'll be more invested. The research today shows us that staff do not only care about tips. That is not true. They do not just care about money. And this is all industries. They care about
people. It's people in general.
Yes.
They need much more than money to be able to
yes.
figure out themselves.
They want to belong. They want to be part of something. They want to feel like they're making a difference. They want to feel like they're making an impact. They're not just a cog in a wheel. And so often in our industry, this is how people feel, that they're replaceable. We don't invest in them. And so, I know it's a big conversation, but I think these little things, Priscilla, can make a huge difference if every manager that's listening goes in tonight or tomorrow and brings up the concept of customer lifetime value, if you spend 15 minutes every week just teaching your staff one strategic thing, one business thing, start treating them like business owners. Teach them about what is the cost of breakage? What is the cost of sampling? Has anyone done the math on that? Because I have. And it costs about $5 every time you give somebody a sample of wine. If you do the actual math on it, not only just the cost of the wine in the glass, you have to cost in the time of somebody going and giving the sample and, oh, you don't like that one? Let me go get another sample, right? The cost of washing the glasses, the cost of there's so much more in that. But those are what we need to teach our staff so that they're not giving them away like candy on Halloween. It costs the business money. So these are the things that inside of Knowbie we actually train on. We teach about customer lifetime value. We teach about the cost of sampling. We teach about all of these things because we believe
it's not only about product, it's actually the reward. It's actually the reward, like actually how business work, how how we actually deal, like how we can stay with your customer, like how we make it experience better for customers. If that is something as well, it's not teaching in places like in the wine industry, like it's not teaching the Westset, it's not teaching any of these places, like how you keep your customer for long. How you make it a repetition, you'll come back to the restaurants or do another purchase on the retail. Is there something we don't have anywhere to be able, like I remember when I worked in Denmark, it was a big issue, like when we actually have like big talks about customers, because it's something we need to talk, like how we can making customers feel better about themselves, how they're making customers coming back to us all the time, to making like loyalty, how we can be loyalty between customers. And it's something, it's a very good point. And thank you for sharing that, because it's definitely something we need to talk in more. And hospitality and wine industry, we're suffering because we not get these loyalty people, we're not getting new customers. You really need to learn how the different ways, how the different aspects you can making the customers feel more comfortable and feel good about themselves to coming back all the time to our industry, because we need them to be able to enjoy themselves, to come into a place and then relax, then have a little bit of fun, enjoy a meal with your friends, and and that's just the thing, that's what the wine industry, the hospitality industry is about. But we're losing because we don't show the values, we don't show all values, we don't train your staff to make sure they give you that value from the business point of view to customers. And I think that's something, I think is a game. It's a game changer. Like it's changing completely the industry. It's if people who is actually face to face to customer know how make things better for business. And that's the people really important, because they're going to be the face of your business. They needed to be trained, they needed to know what they're doing, they needed to make sure the customers come back, because whatever you do, if the people actually face customers is not doing the right thing, or they could do better or improve themselves, it is going to be a huge difference for the entire hospitality industry. So it's a very good point. I love that. But I want to talk to you about something else, because we get 40 minutes to talk about this. But I wanted to talking about something else. I wanted to finish it. I wanted to touch a little point with you, because I think like you, like me, and I think in this year of 2024, 2025, the last 5 years or so, and probably the next decade as well, we're gonna see more people like you and me with a new adventure, try to work in the tech industry, help the wine industry moving forward, adapt it to the tech, make things cheaper for the industry, affordable, not cheaper, but affordable for the industry to be able to making things that they like to improve it all aspect in the wine industry, in the hospitality industry in the long term. We need these in different ways, and trainee is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a hard thing, because we have a lot of experience in hospitality and the wine industry, and then you jump into try to help the industry, and you jump into the tech industry. It's pretty much a new thing for a lot of us, or AI or whatever on this new adventure people is going to bring. Um, to the world of wine and hospitality, but there is a lot of pushing down for techie and AI or anything from the industry, the hospitality
Mm-hmm.
industry. So how do you deal with that? Because I think it is not just me and you who is suffering with this. Um, and then we have lots of the other business who try to bring this online for these ideas to the wine industry. And how was your experience? Like how did you start, and how easy, how difficult, how was the challenge did you have to move from restaurant manager to working,
Mm-hmm.
having your own business, to be entrepreneur, to actually how brave you are
Mm-hmm.
to really, you really wanted to do this, you really wanted to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get that strength from? so
Oh,
how just tell a little bit this story about entrepreneur, like
yeah.
how was that the change and how we wanted to solve that problem, but how much pushback you got, and how to build that strength. Just to tell a little bit the story behind of your challenges between moving
Yeah.
places.
It's it's difficult. That's for sure. It's you have to be really comfortable being uncomfortable. Um, you know, people can look at everybody sees when people are doing great, right? That's when we put stuff on social media and we scream from the rooftops. Um, but they don't see all of the hard things, all of the hard decisions that you've had to make, all of the financial strain, the learning. So when I started Knowbie, Knowbie wasn't my first kick at this. I had started this 9 years ago when my daughter was 6 months old. I went into business with some friends of mine, and I had this idea. My husband and I at the time had this idea to build this company, and it was called Tableside at the time. And so yeah, me and my girlfriend, we wrote all the content, and we we're both stay-at-home moms on our mat leave, and we're trying to build this company. And after a few years of working together, it became very clear that it wasn't working, and we weren't working, and the team wasn't working, and we had put a lot of money into it, and the friendships were strained. So I learned my lesson: don't go into business with your friends. There's the second lesson from Crystal, because they ended up suing me. And
Really? Oh,
yes, and it's funny because my husband at the time said, well, you're somebody when you get sued. Um, and because I wanted to leave the partnership, it wasn't working, and I wanted to move on. And they didn't want that. And so it just was a lot of attention and stress. And we ended up having to go to court over it. And I tell you, the day I got served papers to go to court was probably one of the scariest days of my life. And I have no, fear about it now because I've been through it. But I mean, if you've ever experienced anything like that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But my point of bringing this up is that two reasons. One is that you have to overcome fear. The only way to overcome things is to go straight through them. And that's what I had to do. And I went through, and you know what I did, Priscilla? I let go of the whole thing, that whole business, all of that content, years of my life. I walked away from it because I didn't want to keep fighting. And I didn't want to, feel that strain. it was impacting me more than just, you know, in what was happening. So I made the decision to walk away and start again. And that's when I started Knowbie. And what's so interesting about that story is, when I was building Tableside, I was really focused on making money. I was like, I saw a problem, I saw a solution. I was like, I can make money. I'm going to be rich. Woo! And that was my focus. And then I went through hell and got burned. And at the end, I sat there with nothing, no trademark, no nothing. I sat there completely empty.
Money, lots of money lost.
Oh my God, so much money. And I thought, why do I still want to do this? Why? Why am I still feeling compelled to start again? It can't be money. I can go out and get a job anywhere and make money. It was more than that. And so that experience made me dig deeper into my why and why I wanted to do it. And what I realized was I really wanted to be an advocate and to make change and to be known as somebody that put a stake in the ground and said, I'm going to do this hard thing. Even though it's hard, I'm going to do it anyways. And that's exactly what I did. And so I rebuilt. And what was so cool about rebuilding is that the idea, it couldn't be anything like Tableside. Tableside was gone and it couldn't be anything like that. And so it made me actually become more innovative, and I had to get more creative. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm starting from scratch. I spent all my money on Tableside, so now I need money. So I had to go out and pitch people. Yeah, and get investors. Priscilla, I didn't even know what a pitch deck was. I didn't even know where to start. My ex-husband was like, well, you got to go make a pitch deck. I'm like, what's a pitch deck? I had to learn everything from scratch, every single thing. So I went out and I started pitching people, and I've got this shitty pitch deck that just literally looks like, you know, a grade 2 created it off of like Google Sheets. And I kept all my pitch decks over the years so I can actually look at the evolution. But I went out and I pitched, and I got rejected and rejected and rejected. And, you know, people took meetings and people said no. And I just continued to move forward. And then I decided, you know what, I got a little bit of investor money, and I was like, I'm going to build, you know, this, it's not going to be web-based, it's going to be app-based, because everybody's on their phones. You know, the servers and the people working in retail, they're not sitting at a computer desk. They're on their phones. It's a deskless workforce. So I had to build an app. Did I know anything about it? Absolutely not. So I had to learn all the language and the terminology and all of the acronyms. I didn't know any of that stuff.
You asked and you.
Oh my, nothing. Sprints and waterfall and agile and all of these things.
I just say,
yeah.
Like, what the hell is that?
I know. I didn't know any of it. But I was just rooted in the passion to want to build the solution. And I knew that I knew my customer so well, because I was my customer and all my friends were my customers. And I was just so committed to building it for them. So even when my investors are like, you can't do a per location price, that's not what SaaS is. Even knowing what SaaS is, I didn't even know what that was. You know, you can't do that. I was like, well, I'm doing it because I know my customer. They don't have time to be adding and subtracting people. And so I stayed really strong to my convictions. And what was so cool is that over the years, one of my last investors I brought in was one of my regular customers from Global. So interesting story. His name's Gary Stewart. He was one of the hardest investors I brought in. His money was the hardest to get. It took me almost 1 year to bring his money in. Every time I would pitch him, he would say, nope, not good enough, Crystal. Go back and figure something else, like figure it out and come back. And I would go and iterate my ideas and you know, like I was just learning, and he was pushing me and pushing me and pushing me to be better. Finally, on December 31st, he gave me, he said, okay, I'll invest. And he gave me the check for the money. And I was like, I swear I have like PTSD from like pitching for so long. But fast forward a year, Gary ended up coming out of retirement and now works for me full time. He
I
fell
love it.
so in love. He fell so in love with the journey and the problem we were solving that he couldn't stand on the sidelines anymore. He's not a restaurant person. He doesn't even drink alcohol. And he was just so inspired by what we were doing and so inspired
Yeah.
by, yeah, by the vision that he came out of retirement and works for me full time. And he's like my number two. And so, for people that think that restaurants are a dead end job, I mean, I have raised money, I have traveled the world, I've built my whole life around this dead end job, and I love it more than ever. So it's, I think the lesson is just fail forward really fast. The 3 Fs: fail forward fast, quick, quick, quick.
Oh, I love that. Fair for us. But
Yes.
I love that as well because it's such inspired beginning. Like you said in the beginning, lots of people don't know how we get things done.
Mhm.
Lots of people have this illusion. It's so easy for people. They make you all successful, like they never had any problems at all. They're never going to
Mhm.
any challenge at all. Like you show us like how many
Mhm.
trouble you got before. Like even like to
Oh,
change business, it'd be someone to suit you, so you need to go into the court and
yeah.
deal with those things. It's like it was not probably it was the probably was a nightmare back then. Now we can talk about it, but I think it
Yeah.
going through is a nightmare. You just like, and he was your friend and having this emotion on the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things you needed to deal with, and the mental, you need to be very
Mhm.
strong
Mhm.
because you could really, give up for everything, gave
Oh,
up like don't want a business anymore. I don't want to this anymore. You could give
yeah.
up in everything, and then just to be strong enough to just to try again. And that's what I wanted to come in to tell people like failure for a business you have done before. It's the way we learn, the way we grow,
Mhm.
the way we
Mhm.
found ourselves in a better position later. We we've been educated on the also side as a
Mhm.
failure as a bad thing.
Mhm.
You never say to people failure it's a good thing to learn.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just the way you change the perspective.
If
And
you
we don't want to
even
talk about our failures either, because it just feel like,
yeah.
oh, I don't want to talk about my failures because you feel shame about that, embarrassed. But
No.
why? It's part of
Yeah.
your story.
I
I
think it's
think it was
the
amazing you'll be
most
able to tell us about that. It's amazing. This is
thank
very
you.
inspired.
I think honestly it made me Priscilla who I am. When I think about my time in my previous company in tableside, I didn't believe at that time that I could do it on my own. Even though it was my idea, my husband and I came up with this idea, it was my idea. I didn't feel like I could do it. And that's why I went and I got partners. I was like, oh, well, they can do that and they can do that. And, I didn't feel like I could. But then fast forward to starting Knowbie, and I don't know if I felt like I could do it on my own at that time either, because there was still so much I didn't know, but I was willing to try and I was willing to risk it. And I think that that is a really important differentiation, is that you have to be willing to go all in, like I am all in on Knowbie because I'm all in on myself. And I know that there is competition out there, and there's lots of people say no, lots of people try to build their own solutions. And I say, like, good luck with that, because I've done it and it's very expensive. But more than that, I know that I'm committed to being that flag in the sand, that people can depend on. And I want to listen. I don't think I have all the answers. I want to hear, what do people need? What do their businesses need? What do the staff need? Like, I want to build a solution that's really solving a problem for our industry. So you have to really remove your ego from it. And to your point about failure, we have to talk about our failures because that's what brings everybody down to earth. How am I supposed to inspire anybody if they think I'm perfect? If they think that I knew everything? In sharing your failure, you open the door for other people to take steps and risks because they're like, well, if she can take a risk and look where she is now, then I can do it. And it was one thing. My ex-husband, he's an amazing man, and he sold his company and did very, very well. And I watched him build his whole company right from the very beginning, like to when he didn't even have a car and he had to borrow my little like Toyota Corolla to drive to like accounts, and he was putting together systems in my parents' basement. And those are the things I always said, I wish he would have shared that side of his story more, the side of um, perseverance, the side of struggle, because that's what people relate to, because we've all been there. We've all struggled. We've all been told no. We've all failed. And that's where our strength as a community comes, is that we can lift. If we're always up here, we can never lift people up. And how do we become a community if we're not lifting each other? So sharing our failures enables us to do that. Uh-oh, did we freeze?
Yeah, I love that. So I wanted to finish this podcast with a very great three advices and message for people who is listening to this podcast. I think we're talking about solutions, how important for training, like training staff, and how important not just for the business, but actually for the employees, but also for customers. We cover lots of the things is not being done is actually how we can make sure we have customers a long term, not just today. So, and then I think that's what a Knowbie is a great solution for hospitality, wines, and this and the beverage industry, because you cover quite a bit, and because you cover customers, and I guess it's something like the whole industry needs as well. So it's a very good way to improving the hospitality business in general. But I like it, the stories as well, like the failure, the value of the learning, the journey, of the industry to get where you are today. So it was a very good learning journey with lots of ups and downs. It was not everything up, it was not everything down, but it was like good like stories as well with about your investor you're working full time with you. It's all that the great things is coming together after a battle, after war, after every bad things happen first for to see the line in the sky. But I wanted to, for this whole feedback conversation today, what's the three main message or advices for people who listen? It's pretty much more B2B. So people who is dream to do something but so scared. What is going to be for them and for business as well? How they can, study for today, for looking for better solutions for the employees and for customers. So just to give you like a three advices coming from your heart, come from your mind right now, just to finish this podcast with that message of powerful message to take us to think about, to rethinking about.
Yeah. Again, I love telling stories, so all of my antidotes are wrapped into stories. But I think the most important thing, and as cliche as it is, I've watched people build companies. My ex-husband, my investor, I watched him build his company. And what I saw was people like both of them, rushing to the finish line, like always trying to get to the finish line. Like, I will, once I get there, then this will be great. And once I get there, then I'm going to do this. And I'll be really happy when I get to that milestone and that milestone. But what happens is those milestones always move. And so I watched, especially in my own family, we would get to that, he would get to that milestone, and we were no better off. We were no happier. Like, you can't delay your happiness. You have to, as cliche as it sounds, really enjoy the journey, because that is your life. Your life is this. And so we can't wait to be happy till, I get my first 100 customers, or until I break 100K, or whatever your milestones are. We can't wait to be happy or wait to feel successful, to those moments. So, make sure that you're checking yourself, to always put yourself back in the perspective that as long as we're moving forward, that is your life, and that is happiness. So I definitely believe in that, and I try to practice it myself as much as possible. Enjoy the journey. Um, the second one, I mean, that's the biggest one that really comes to mind for me. That is the biggest message. And I think that the other one I would say is, don't be afraid. Like, don't let anxiety, the fear of what may happen, stop you from taking action, because the only way through the fear is through action. And so we have to do it. We have to move forward, and continually move through the difficult times. And then I think the third one is, to ask for help, to share in your own fragility, to share, because everybody's in the same place. And people love to give advice, they love to help. And so don't be afraid to ask for that. And then, my final one is take the lesson from me and Emad. Ask for more than you think you can get.
Yeah.
Because you'll probably get it.
I'll probably get it. I guess always be ambitious is part of the game as well. Like, it just started from the higher point, and you see like how much you can get from there.
Don't let those little voices tell you that you're worth less. You're worth the whole thing.
Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I think was one of our podcasts was so inspired. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your struggles, your challenges, your victories, your journey to get where you are, and to the passions about training, and your passion about it to make it the hospitality world much better, to improve ourselves as employees and to get a better customer service. I think your vision for the future, it's a very important as we're moving forward in a very, very change world moment. But there is a lot of value that is not going to change. And in the chain, like customers and employees, human, it's never going to change. You can change a lot of things, but humans, it's going to be, people always is going to need to treat people well, and to customers to coming back to any type of business you have, it's needed to be able to have business. So it's a lot of the values we have in the platform. You build in the app you build, it's the values you're never gonna change, because it's something, it's like a part of being a human being, and it's a value, it's so positive values. We need to keep in that alive, and like, it's treat people well, treat people, customers well, make
invest
people feel
in our
confident.
people. I always say, people, when I
People,
interact with people,
confident people.
I want people to leave better than how they arrived. That's what I always say. I do it with my own staff. I try to do it with every interaction that I have, I want them to leave better than how they came into the conversation. And so that kind of philosophy is really one of the foundations of my interactions.
And then for me, it's giving people in power, like it make people feel confident about themselves. It's a very good way to see a better world, where the world we all grow together, where we make ourselves better than what we were before. To improve your visions, have a better version of yourselves. And I think that is a vision is very important, not just on the hospitality business, but I think it's like a society, to be honest. It's like
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
bigger than just the training hospitality. The vision is much bigger than that. It's a as a way to make yourself confident in life and keeping going and keeping growing. So I say very congratulations for being brave enough to be
Thank
doing
you.
these things. So the hospitality, where lots of people don't invest in hospitality industry because they
Mhm.
don't see future, but someone needs to do to make it is actually a sustainable future business where people actually be able to have this financial sustainability on the
Mhm.
hospitality
Yeah.
industry. So we need to making this more affordable for that.
Mhm.
So and then you need to have a better experience for customers and empower our employees. So I think what you do is amazing. And thank you so much. I'm
Thank
very
you.
happy to be able to talk about your brand here, to be able to celebrate with you, and to be able to tell your story. So thank you for your time as well. I think we take
Thank you.
over an hour today.
Oh,
but,
we could go
but it was a
longer.
very good conversation. So I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you for having me.